Hello, and welcome to Let's Talk Climate. We're glad you're here today. I'm Deneen Powell, your host and ecoAmerica's Path to Positive Program Director. Today on Let's Talk Climate, we're talking about water and water equity. Water is considered to be one of the first indicators of climate change. There's either too much, too little, or it's too dirty. Climate change is already affecting water access for people around the world, causing more severe droughts and floods. Increasing global temperatures are one of the main contributors to this problem. Climate change impacts the water cycle by influencing when, where, and how much precipitation falls. Today, we are talking to Erin Huber of Drink Local, Drink Tap, whose mission is to improve water equity through projects, programming, and partnerships. Water equity occurs when everyone has access to affordable, safe, clean water. And everyone is safe in the face of water risks. And everyone is able to share the benefits of water systems. And keeping our water sources clean is a start to more equitable water. But advancing, learning, and collaborating are other ways to get involved. Now, before we begin, I make my home near Milwaukee, Wisconsin, where I reside on the unceded land of the Ojibwe, Potawatomi, and Algonquin tribes. I ask you to join me in acknowledging this region's diverse and vibrant Native peoples who show strength and resilience amidst a backdrop of continuing oppression. Let this acknowledgement demonstrate our commitment to dismantling the ongoing legacies of colonialism. Welcome, Erin. Welcome, my friend. How are you today?
Good. Hello. I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing terrific. Thanks so much for joining us. And we're going to just jump right into the questions here. I know that you're on a limited time frame, and I want to make sure we get everything in and get as much information about Drink Local, Drink Tap as we can. So in my introduction, I briefly touched on the mission of Drink Local, Drink Tap, which is to improve water equity through projects, programming, and partnerships. Can you tell us a little bit about what water equity means to your organization and how it is impacted by the climate crisis?
Sure. So water equity is a huge issue and water issues are even bigger. So we're a small nonprofit based in Cleveland, Ohio and Uganda. So that's where our experience working in water equity lies. And here in Northeast Ohio, in Cleveland, Ohio, in the United States, we are focused on both educating the public about water issues and solutions, working on affordability and access, but it's much different than the water equity issues that we're solving in East Africa, in equatorial regions of the world where climate change and many other factors are affecting water supplies.
That's terrific. Can you explain, maybe get into a little bit more detail about what that looks like? Maybe if you could even describe some of the challenges that you face in Ohio versus what type of challenges you would face in a place like Uganda.
Sure. So in Northeast Ohio, my backyard here is really the Great Lakes of North America. So we have 20% of the entire world's fresh surface water a mile from where I'm sitting talking to you today. Ironically, in East Africa and the Great Lakes region of Africa, that equity issue, that access issue is very different. So here we have infrastructure, right? We have Cleveland Division of Water, we have the Northeast Ohio Regional Sewer District, we have infrastructure, but sometimes keeping up with that infrastructure, keeping it affordable affects, water equity and not everybody being able to pay their water and sewer bills. And sometimes that even leads to water shutoffs. We saw a moratorium during COVID-19 during 2020 and 2021, because obviously you need clean water to stay healthy. And so we weren't shutting people's water off, but water equity issues here are much different than what we're seeing in East Africa. In East Africa, just briefly, and I can talk more later, but really there is no infrastructure helping people access their Great Lakes water supply. So a lot of what we work with there is groundwater access, accessing groundwater, drilling wells, and tapping water that way. So I could go into more detail, but I'll wait for your further question.
Sure. Yeah. And, well, that actually brings me to thinking a little bit about the climate justice principles. And, I've said it before on this show. I like to share that the climate justice principles, there are 9 of them. However, the one that immediately came to mind for Drink Local, Drink Tap is the principle of respect and protect human rights. And I believe that the projects that you are doing, not only here in the US, but also abroad, help to uphold and guarantee basic rights rooted in the respect for the dignity of the person. And this is an indispensable foundation for climate justice action, right? And so now I would like you to share some of the projects, and both local and abroad, and the impacts that those projects have on the community that your organization, the communities, because you're in 2 different places, that your organization serves.
Sure. So I guess I might start actually globally responding to this one. So globally, what we've seen is a lot of migration and refugees occurring due to the climate crisis. So if you think about um, rainfall and how a lot of people between the tropics around the world are subsistence farmers. So they're growing food every day just to survive, keep their family fed at the bare minimum. And so when rainfall changes and sporadic rain happens, maybe there's flood or drought, right? Or now extremes of that, it's very hard for farmers and families to plan for their food supplies and cycles. How much can they sell? How much can they grow? Did the heavy flood wash away their seeds? And now everything is a disaster. And now you see people moving to different parts of sub-Saharan Africa or within countries or outside of countries just to find land or to find food. And to find land and food, right? They're looking for water along with those things. So you see a lot of migration, a lot of people leaving their tribal areas and homes where they've been forever, which is really sad. So what we try to do in Uganda, in rural Uganda, is to make sure that we can create sustainable water and sanitation, water sources and sanitation facilities in these rural areas to build a foundation for people to stay and not have to migrate. And if we do manage our groundwater properly and allow it to recharge properly, we can really create some sustainable water sources and systems for really people living at the rawest level of human survival.
That's really interesting because I think about here, actually, I am outside of Milwaukee and we are still in the Great Lakes, in the Lake Michigan's basin here. But if you go 20 miles out, that basin ends and it's actually groundwater that has to be recharged. And I know it takes 77 years from the time rainfall hits the ground to the point where it actually reaches the aquifer under the ground. And I think it's really important that other people really understand what it takes sometimes for that water to reach us, to reach our faucet, from the rain that falls from the sky to actually show up in my glass at the end of the day. So I think it's what you're doing, and I'm assuming that you're doing more education on the side, on state side, and that you're providing information that allows, let's just say, the average everyday individual to really understand where our water comes from and how we have to protect it. Can you tell me a little bit about your programming here, or locally?
Sure. So domestically in the US and in Northeast Ohio here, we do focus on education and advocacy. And like for example, today is World Water Day, and the United Nations theme is groundwater, making the invisible visible. And 97% of all the world's fresh water is groundwater. And because we don't see it, we don't think about the threats that are impacting it. And you don't want our groundwater supplies to be impacted so severely that it's too late to fix it. And so this is happening through land use, climate change, deforestation, industrial waste, all sorts of things combining to really affect our groundwater supplies. So even just today, advocating and educating others about protecting our groundwater supplies is just one of the many things that we do locally.
Thanks for that. And it has to be solution driven. I feel that that's so important. Can you tell me a little bit about the long-term goals for your organization for Drink Local, Drink Tap? And what do you hope to accomplish in the next few years? Are you expanding? Are you growing the programming at all?
So our teams on two continents have been growing, even all throughout the pandemic, which has been really interesting. Um, as long as, of course, we have the funding needed, we'll be able to move forward with my goal of reaching 100,000 people in Uganda with clean, sustainable water every day of the year. And locally here, we really want to see our school programming, our Wavemaker program, expand throughout the US. We have free educational materials for educators, downloadable lesson plans, documentaries. We have a whole unit just on climate change and water that's free for educators to download. So I really hope to see that expand to almost all 50 states, I hope, in the next few years.
And we'll definitely be sharing those resources with our audience so that they can click on that and take advantage of that information. So thank you
Thank
for that. Okay, so I want to move on because again, I want to be just very aware of time here. What lessons have you learned about working with local communities and international communities that can be applied to other organizations doing similar work? Say we've got somebody on watching this and they're saying, gosh, I'm doing a lot of the same things that Erin is doing, but maybe I'm not as far along. What can they glean? What lessons have you learned that you can share with our audience?
So I think that local and international really doesn't have much difference. So I'm just going to explain in general, I think. Really on the community side, I've learned that listening is the most important skill anyone in community development can have. It's not easy, right? We all want to talk. We all want to have the answers. Some of us want to be right and control situations. But really, if you want to do sustainable community development work, you have to start with real, genuine listening. And it's not just to tick a box. It has to be genuine and it has to go at the speed of trust. It has to go at the speed of the community really genuinely wanting to be part of that conversation. And I think as far as organizationally, making sure that we're not just operating in silos, that we're actually looking for partnerships. Look, I know that we're always fighting for money and traction and brand recognition and all of this and to be an expert. But the fact is, we're all in this together. We're all on the same planet together. We're all trying to work towards the same ideal future. So really opening up our eyes to bring in partners who might be able to talk about different subjects better than us or might be able to help us with a problem we're having. I've started recently to break down my own ego and issues and reach out to help, even though some of my questions I felt were embarrassing. And I've been embraced by my community in this sector. So that I think that's really, really, to me, has been helpful.
That's terrific. And thank you so much for that. I think it's so important. Communicate, listen, partnerships. I love it. Thank you. I have one more question for you, Erin, and then I'm going to wrap this up. And if you could share a message with our audience about ways that they can support or engage with Drink Local, Drink Tap, what would it be?
I would love to see everyone connect with us on social media, both for learning, but also advocacy. So if you see us sharing anything that you think your network would benefit from, please do. That's a really easy thing to do while you're laying in bed or drinking your coffee. But also you can always donate. It only takes $30 to help someone access clean water for life and about $15 to have someone access sanitation for life. And literally it can be life-saving. And domestically or wherever you live, right, protecting our water supplies in any small or big way that you can. Buying less items that may pollute our waterways, single-use plastics, getting rid of those in your daily life. Those are small steps to really big change.
Thank you for that. And just a reminder, we do have our guides that can help you make those decisions and find those little pieces that you can incorporate into your own life on our website, on the Path to Positive website as well. So thank you for that, Erin. I have to say, I'm so bummed out right now because we've reached the end of our time together. And this has really been an amazing conversation, condensed, but amazing. Um, Thank you so much for your leadership in water equity. And it's my hope that this discussion, our discussion, has inspired our listeners about progress and community engagement and solutions to climate change. And thank you so much for joining us today. We look forward to seeing what's next for you and Drink Local, Drink Tap.
Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. Engage with us online with the hashtag Let's Talk Climate, and be sure to subscribe and follow us for the latest thought leadership, resources, and episodes on climate action and advocacy. From all of us at ecoAmerica, thank you. Stay well, stay safe, and we'll see you soon.